in their divine blueprint, in their chakra system, everything that they are is emanating a certain color, a certain vibrational frequency. So in order to create healing, oftentimes that overall frequency has to be tweaked in order to open up, right, to clear out any stagnation and whatnot. So what I do in the DNA reprogramming is I identify that vibrational frequency that the human needs to open themselves up into the next level of their understanding, their healing, a new perspective. And we apply that, and it affects the entire organism, not just the physical, but the non-physical aspect. This is a part of this information that came through. It's also an understanding of sacred geometry. It's also how we are seeing crop circles, for example, which are communication. If we understand this kind of language, we have the ability to translate a lot of different healing modalities. We have a link to ancient cultures like the Mayans, like the ancient Egyptians. All of these ancient cultures were operating on this kind of universal language then. I think we're coming into a new aspect of that now. And technology does play a certain role in it, but for me, the kind of technology that I focus on is organic technology that comes in from our awareness of the non-physical. So our ability to come into our intuitive self allows us the connection to infinite knowledge. And in that infinite knowledge, we can understand, we can channel in advanced technology, advanced all kinds of things. Like these are the hybrids that are being born now are directly tapped into that knowledge and that information. And I think that this is kind of progressively as a human race, we're activating these parts of our DNA which allow us the ability to access that kind of infinite information that's available to us. So I hope that this answers the question, or at least addresses part of it. Is this kind of what you're talking about?
Well, it sounds like the same thing, we're all talking about. Like Janet said, there's nothing new under the sun. I was just wondering if there was something out there in AI land that was using something besides what everybody else is using on the Internet, which still sounds like the same thing, sounds, symbols, frequencies. And, I've been working with integrative medicine with this cancer group, or various groups, and we all seem to come up with the same thing. It all comes back to biology. So we're back to AI again and biological entities off planet. So I'm still having a direct conflict, but that's what I started with. So that's my deal, Geraldine, was coming in, learning how to communicate.
So we're
or not.
So we're biological. We're biological entities. Now, are we? And we had this conversation earlier. Is this nothing more than with Battlestar Galactica, that we think we're alive, we think we're not artificial, or are we artificial? Are we cyborgs, or are we humans? And what does that mean to be human? Is it just some kind of advanced technology that we come into these avatars that we inhabit, and we're souls animating these forms? And what does all this mean? Because, the Anunnaki did not experience disease, so they somehow, their form did not experience aging nor diseases. And then when they came to the Earth, suddenly they're experiencing aging. But they still are alive. They conquered that, and here we are. We've been dummied down. Our DNA's been shut off. We only believe that we live, between 50 and 120 years. Very few make it to 120. So part of what's happening is our belief system. But how do we go past that to be our potential, which is the Anunnaki, and they live to be millions of years in physical form. And that's our potential, because we have a lot of their DNA. But so I think what you're saying, TJ, is you're frustrated, as are we all, on, how do we wake this up within ourselves? Or are we back into the recycle system?
No, not me.
We get born again.
I've already done the Anunnaki stuff. You have too. So, can you hear me, or am I out? Can you hear me?
So you're
you
not
can.
coming back. So you're
No. I'm back like a bodhisattva.
You're not coming back.
No, this was a conscious choice.
Right,
I've already
okay.
died 3 times, and how many lives already? No, this is a choice because I told you I was working out of this universe. So I'm part of the group that's way up there working with the old school before, I helped create all the indigos and the Law of One and all of that so many people are using before we did the Tony Stubbs book, So we were working years and years in this reality, but we couldn't get them to understand the biological suits, ergo World War II, Hitler, lotta. So those people you call the Anunnaki, they're the ones with the God levels in the 369, the Ennead 9, and they're also the ones that said that we were only going to let the people on this particular location live 100 to 25 years, and that is set as a key in the in the Andromeda as
right.
well as this Milky Way galaxy. Those were gods. Those were above. And that's the law of 5 to 7. And we go all the way up to 9. And they were only teaching, I was only teaching with the with my God group, was the universal laws of down the 7 universal steps. So that's where we decided we would give the 12. But at the level, that's how we got up to the 12. But
TJ, we're going to have to unpack that because it's just
okay.
It's too many words.
Well, we've only got 8 minutes on your show.
I know.
Oh.
So, but we've got a long time. We have other shows. We need to unpack that. So let's keep it kind of on a
cosmos conscious
I
level.
understand about half of what you're saying, but we've got to start with the human level, and then go to the ET level, and then go to the God level. So we're going past too many steps. So we get a lot of people that are still learning. So that's why I always say slow down, unpack. I know you're a genius, Geraldine. You're brilliant. Everybody's brilliant, but we got to slow down and unpack it because we're here to educate people, not to lecture and let you just download. We're here to help people and educate and help them catch up, help them understand how to evolve and grow, become more conscious. And none of us is better than anyone else. Just
the
because
key
you're
is
old
love.
Doesn't mean the people
key
in
is
kindergarten,
love.
The new souls coming into kindergarten are just as important. We're all equal in the divine plan, and the key is love. Yes, most definitely.
But the key is love, and we leave out the levels. Well, that's the key. You've mentioned 125 or 120, but that's the key that was left here, and there's nothing I can do about that because you asked me, what I was doing, but there's nothing I can do about what's already been set up. There's just some universal laws I can't change. Not right now, not with this level. So I think that the whole Ascension Age is about everything we've been doing from the beginning of time is trying to teach people how to be back into the biological so they can get back out, but appreciate the essence of smell and sound and hearing and taste and touch because you miss that. I miss that. And even when I come back in, I miss that. But then when I'm out there, I miss this. So how do we teach that? With love. There's got to be. Suzanne, jump in here. Don't you believe that no matter what we use?
That's basically when you're in the moment, in the now, then you appreciate the air on your face and the smells and the love for your kids and their spouse and your kitties. But when you go grandiose and it's like, I'm all over the place, you don't have the now. Okay, but go ahead, Suzanne. We got
the now.
Geraldine, go ahead.
Geraldine, it's an interesting conversation. It's really interesting. You were in the event planning industry, and now you're in this metaphysical world. So interesting story. Your transition has an interesting element to it, the awakening. So I just find it an interesting story. It's also, and I'm not trying to point this out. It's also an interesting chapter because you're in the early chapter of your work. It's very interesting.
Yes,
that's a good point. Yeah, where do you think this will go? Because that's the language I'm looking for that I don't know how to communicate to you as I'm trying to get to that. What are they doing where you live with AI? Because we all know that they know the nomenclature from all you have to do is Google it. So what are they doing with people like you? What's the next level?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean next level, like, but I can tell you what I know. I mean, working here in the Silicon Valley, I mean, there's a lot of different agendas and programs, as you know, that are in connection with the government, and a lot of different programs that are meant to slow down the progression of our evolution, in a sense. And also, there's a lot of programs and agendas that are moving towards transhumanism. So, I mean, I think we're seeing that very clearly in our society today. But again, ultimately, as Janet was saying earlier, and I agree, the thing is to help people understand what to do, like how to embody the empowerment of moving forward. And I think that's the value that we can bring, is by educating the ability to come into that sovereignty, to that connection to oneself, that divine connection to Source, and therefore realize what is deception, what is distraction, and what is the focus. I believe that there's so much distraction, in so many different things, even in the spiritual community, that we lose sight of, what we need to be focusing on. And the focus is really coming into that awareness of oneself, so that we can begin to deprogram from the matrix and find who we truly are, which is nothing like what we've been shown, like what we've been taught. And once you realize that, once you come to that realization, all of these things that you're watching on TV, like artificial intelligence, all of these things that are happening around us, all these programs that are being carried out, you can begin to choose whether you want to participate in those things or not participate. Now, there's many different levels of artificial intelligence. I'm not sure which one you're specifically talking about, but there's artificial intelligence in the fact that there's an agenda for transhumanism that's occurring on planet Earth on a mass scale, right, through programming of television and art and media and the computers and all this technology that's happening around us. But there's also an artificial intelligence that's in the non-physical body, which is also a big problem, which is the hijacking of our consciousness when we're not aware, which is the implementation of entities and attachments that are floating around in our space and becoming a vibrational match to us when we're not consciously aware of our bodies. And I also work with a lot of people that end up with a lot of this artificial intelligence attached to them that is maintaining them in a low vibrational frequency, such as depression, fear, anxiety. All these emotions, which we know as emotions, are an end product of a lot of this artificial intelligence that's being operational on the non-physical. And it's important for us to understand how that works, the mechanism behind that. When we enter a low-frequency emotion, we become a vibrational match to a lot of this artificial intelligence. And this is something that's being carried out on a massive scale, even in our communities. Large gatherings, places like malls, places like ballparks, all of these conference places, music halls, all of these places of large gathering where there's a lot of people. There's technology that is absorbing and utilizing unconscious aspects of humans, and manipulating that aspects of themselves. So, that's also another part of artificial intelligence. Now, there's the other part of implantation, which happens. Implants that are as small as little tiny moles that can appear on your body through astral, traveling and other unconscious aspects of yourself that go into the astral planes can be very easily hijacked and manipulated and controlled. So this is why I advocate becoming aware of yourself and educating yourself on becoming conscious in waking time and dream time, so that when you are detaching from the physical body during sleep, during dream time, you're not a host, an unconscious, unaware host of yourself in those planes. And Silicon Valley is.
We're